Hello and welcome to Flashback Horror Movie Podcast. I am your host with the most, the Prime Minister of Sinister. Oh wait, no, that's my co-host today. I am the Pajama Pants Player. I am John Grande. How y'all doing today? And here with me is the real Prime Minister of Sinister, Don Nice. How you doing, my man?
I'm doing all right, man. Like I said, a little under the weather, but like I said, I was excited to do this Halloween episode. And for anybody out there who doesn't know, John and I just put in, and Will too, who's actually not going to be with us, we put in about an hour and a half on a podcast, and it for one reason or another it didn't work out. So we're re-recording. This is the second time in 31 episodes it's happened. So I guess our batting average is pretty good, but here we are. We're ready to go, ready to do it again. So I'm ready, man.
We've already talked about these movies with each other, so we will not act surprised or anything at each other's picks. I will send a text to Will right now,
cool.
Telling him that if he gets out of his class early or whatnot, he can come back and join.
Yeah.
That'll probably end up what happens. You know, we started with Will, we'll end with Will. By
nice,
God.
Nice.
But yeah, we did. We recorded. It was about 100 minutes of what we'll talk about right now. But we were right at the end. I believe we were. Last pick, going into my last pick,
man.
And I don't know what happened. We started to talk a little bit about Don's pick, and then his computer restarted. So
yeah.
It's all good, though.
Absolutely.
We're here for you fans, and we're going to give the whole kip up, and we're going to start talking about some Halloween horror picks to watch around this time of year. And would you like to lead us off again, Don?
Yeah, actually, I wanted to bring up the fact that we were supposed to have another special guest on. Unfortunately, we weren't able to hook up with Mr. Ryan Snyder. He had some things going on. He was going to be on the show, and I want to give a shout out to him, obviously, for being a fan. And there's somebody else I meant to do. I didn't even do this last episode, but I'm going to do it this time. We have another kind of a big fan of ours that I've gradually become friends with, named Darren Burrows. And he's across the pond in England, I believe, and his mom is real sick, so I wanted to give a shout out to him, let him know we're thinking about him. So, but yeah, man, let's actually. Did you want to talk about? Did you watch anything else this week other than these movies that you wanted to bring up, or?
No, not really.
Okay.
I've really just been watching movies like this.
Gotcha.
But granted, I haven't watched anything else besides horror movies. I mean,
gotcha.
Late October, that's all I watch.
Yeah, I wanted to talk about just one real quick. That I don't know if you've seen yet or not, but it just came on Netflix at the beginning of the month, called The Babysitter. I'm sure you've heard about it.
Oh, you texted me the day you saw it.
Yeah. Did you get a chance to check it out?
About it.
Oh man, I got to tell you, dude, it is really, really, really good. Again, it's kind of I don't really want to get into what we've talked about in the episode that didn't happen, but it's kind of like those movies where it's about a young kid who's his babysitter, who is a super, super hot Samara Weaving, which is Hugo Weaving's daughter, which is kind of weird.
And that hot chick, what's her name?
Bella Thorne. Yeah, she's in it too. But he plays the babysitter of this kid, and they get along really well. They like do some dancing when they're together and the parents are away, and they're just having a great time. And like I said, she's super, super smoking hot. And one night he's supposed to be in bed, and he kind of creeps out, and she has some friends over, and they're playing spin the bottle, and he's watching, And come to find out that they're like Satanists, and they want to take his blood, the blood of the innocent, and they kill a little nerd that's with the group when they're playing spin the bottle, and then they try to. He overhears them say that they're going to go take his blood. And he runs and tries to hide and fights him off and things like that. But it's really, really a good movie. Directed by McG. I don't know who that is, but
he made the Terminator Salvation movie.
Oh, okay. Okay. But it's definitely worth a watch. It's a real quick watch. It's not 2 hours, or it's only an hour and maybe 25 minutes or something like that. But it's really, really good. Like I said, some super hot chicks in it, and some really, really good action. And if you haven't seen it, though, you definitely need to check it out. It's my favorite movie of the year.
That's saying something.
Yeah, I liked it a lot.
Because for you to say so, I know you're not a big current
right
movie fan, but that's really awesome to hear you say that.
Yeah.
Like, that's the Don Nice stamp of approval. I may have to give it a watch. If
right.
I had Netflix, I would have watched it that day when you texted me.
Yeah.
But I do not. So, but I'm thinking tomorrow night a few of my friends and I are going to get together. Maybe we'll throw that on.
Yeah. Well, I mean, obviously I'll text you. Maybe you'll just give you my sign on, and you can check it out on Netflix if you want to do that.
Don't even worry about that. Okay. I mean, if it comes to that point, I can just stream it or something.
Gotcha.
But,
okay, that's cool. But it's definitely it's worth paying for. I'll put it to you that way. If you got to pay $3.99 to rent it or whatever, it's worth it. So
that's awesome, man. I'm really glad to hear that.
Yeah, 80s throwback, man. 80s throwback.
Yeah, you hear that? It remake. That's not you got nothing on the babysitter.
No, I love this movie much more.
Nice.
Much more. So, anyways, yeah, let's go ahead and get into it. I did want to bring that up because I know a lot of people were kind of hemming and hawing maybe to watch it. So I think it's worth it. So.
Oh, by the way, before we get into this, though, Wills did say he's out of class in about 25 minutes.
Okay.
So cool. It's cool if he joins back in, right?
Absolutely.
Okay, cool.
Please
so all
do.
he's got to do is call you, or
Yep. Yeah, he can just get on and Skype me, and I'll let him join right in.
Okay, perfect.
I was kind of upset thinking he wasn't going to be able to be on because I want him to be on. So
yeah, I would have felt terrible.
Yeah,
because
me too.
I was talking to Ryan throughout the week about being on. He was like, I work. All I do is work, and I was like, oh shit, okay. So and then I was like, oh shit, what's Will up to? So I called Will, and I was so glad he was able to join. But yeah,
cool.
He's done. I think he's done for the day in 25 minutes. So maybe this is a blessing in disguise. We can end with all three of us.
Yeah, no doubt. That sounds good. I'm trying to think of which one. I think we'll start with. I really like this movie a lot. It's kind of it's a very typical 80s. I think this is, and most of my movies are going to kind of follow this. John, you already know. One of those ones that you can get together with friends and really have a good time with. Maybe even play a drinking game or something like that. If you're, I'm past that age, I guess. But when I was younger, for sure, we would have a good time. You could laugh at it. You could be scared at it. And that's Night of the Demons, the original Kevin S. Tenney. I don't know if there's another Kevin Tenney out there, but Kevin S. Tenney who directed Night of the Creeps. He likes the Night of the Somethings, which I think is another great movie with Tom Atkins in it. I love that.
The guy who made Monster Squad made Night of the Creeps.
Oh, dude, I'm so sorry. You're absolutely right. What am I talking about? Yeah. Anyways, I apologize. You're
That's
absolutely
Fred Decker, silly goose.
Fred Decker. See, I'm all messed up because I messed everything up.
Yeah, I know. This is so odd.
Jack me up.
This,
yeah.
And we're gonna go through it like pros.
Yeah. So, anyways, all right. So the storyline is a group of friends. I don't want to call them friends because they're not all friendly to each other, but they go to this party hosted by a girl named Angela, and during the party, they're. First of all, there's like three nude scenes, I believe, in this movie, so it's definitely worth watching for Linnea Quigley. And damn it, I cannot remember that other chick's name. Jill Terashita, who is absolutely beautiful. Linnea Quigley, who back then was super hot. It was probably my first real movie crush was Linnea Quigley. Return of the Living Dead. Anybody who knows Trash from Return of the Living Dead, that's Linnea Quigley. But anyways, they play this. I can't remember if it's a Ouija board or something like that, where the girl who has the party, Angela, she gets possessed by a demon, and just mayhem ensues. So I think this movie is really, really cool because, I think the opening credits, that the animations behind the opening credits is really cool, and the music is really cool. The music actually kind of reminds me of the Halloween intro, the one I've been doing for the last couple of weeks for FHMP. Kind of reminds me of that. But this is one of those kind of, it can be cheesy at times, it can be scary at times, it can be sexy at times. So it's one of those kind of hits all the major nerves, as you're watching this movie. I like the character of Stooge, who is kind of like the big fat guy, and there's always in 80s movies there was always the very typical, stereotypical jock, smart person, football guy, fat guy, nerd. They were, and this movie kind of goes along with that, and it reminds me a lot of I think I said this before, the Call of Duty Zombies game from Infinite Warfare, I think. And if you haven't played that, if you're into gaming, that's really cool because it's definitely 80s horror movie based. So, but yeah, what do you think about this movie? I know you enjoy the movie, but tell me a little bit about what you think.
This is a movie that I agree with you 100%. I mean, it's a perfect popcorn movie to watch with friends around this time of the year.
Absolutely.
Because it really, when I think of Halloween, I think two things. I either think creepy, atmospheric, slow burn kind of films, or I think really fun, goofy, cheesy, movies with a lot of boobs, blood, mayhem, like we always talk about.
Absolutely.
And this is one of those kind of movies where it just has such colorful characters and really funny, low-key secondary characters.
Yes.
And one of my all-time favorite lines in a horror film where they're at the door of the house and he goes, "Eat a bowl of fuck. I'm here to party." That is so always classic. Been one of my favorite goddamn lines in any movie. I love that line. It's so goddamn classic. But like you said, like the whole Ouija board thing and the whole vibe this movie gets. I think Kevin Tenney really understood that cheese factor of the. Did this come out 86? I believe.
Actually, 88. If you can believe that.
88.
Yeah, he did Witchboard in 86.
This movie fits right in with like in tone with movies like Return of the Living Dead.
Yes.
Yes. And it's so much fun to watch. It's just a really good time. Kevin Tenney's one of those guys that really, I think he understands the genre and gets the genre better than a lot of guys around that time. But this is totally a really fun movie to watch. This is one I'd actually like to rewatch sometime maybe soon.
Yeah.
Because this is a really solid effort. I really have always liked Night of the Demons a lot.
Yeah. He did, and I was talking about him doing Night of the Creeps, which totally wasn't true, but he did Witchboard, which I think is another really good, fun movie with Tawny Katane, before she was crazy. Do you like that movie at all?
Yes, it's been years since I've seen it, but yes, I do like that one.
Cool, yeah. So that's my first pick. Like I said, a lot of fun. Like I said, it could be scary at times. Hashtag BBM, boobs, blood, and mayhem. You know what I mean? And that for me especially, that was my teenage years. You know what I mean? That's really all I looked for at that point. So it worked well, and like I said, it can be a lot of fun with a group of people. So.
For sure, man.
Yep,
sure.
What about you? What's your first one?
My first pick here. I wanted to talk a little bit about a film from 1976. It is the Dan Curtis film, Burnt Offerings. And
Absolutely.
This is one of those movies that I kind of came late to the party on. I saw it a couple years ago, and I just immediately was enamored by the movie. I always thought, wow, why doesn't anybody talk about this thing? Because it's absolutely terrifying. It basically tells the story of Oliver Reed and Karen Black. They're a couple, and they are going to act as like the caretakers for this house that Burgess Meredith owns. And Burgess Meredith basically says, I'll pay you, you stay here. The house will preserve itself. Just please stay here and watch over my house. And it's a creepy little opening scene because you're not quite sure if Burgess Meredith is telling the truth or not. And you kind of like know there's something sinister going to happen. And then they basically move in. They get paid some ridiculous amount of money, and it's Betty Davis and their child, and obviously Karen Black and Oliver Reed. And they move into this house, and just absolute crazy shit, insanity ensues from there. This movie is absolutely terrifying. There are scenes in this movie of this kind of Undertaker kind of guy, not I guess not a guy that would bury you, but there's this creepy guy with sunglasses and like he's in a suit, and he just keeps showing up in this movie, and he's like kind of smiling at the camera, little subtlety things. And there's also a scene where Oliver Reed is playing with his son in the pool, and like all of a sudden I guess this darkness overtakes him, and he like tries to drown his son. And, like, I don't know what it is about that damn scene, man, but it freaks me out to this day. It is absolutely terrifying. How terrifying was that scene, man? Yeah, well, no, I absolutely agree. I mean, as a kid, it really left a mark on me, that scene did. And, I think I told you that, I grew up without a dad. My dad was not around. So, it was, the dad was killing the son, so it was kind of extra creepy. And now, I have 3 sons. So, to think about that scene, to think about, I don't know, it kind of just fucks with your head a little bit, you know what I mean, to think about what could be going on in that guy's mind, even though it's a movie, but this is one of those movies that I definitely don't have a problem trying to put myself in people's shoes. You know what I mean? Like in a slasher movie, if you do that, you go, well, I would do this. I would run that way, or I'd run outside, or, whatever the situation is. And I don't like to do that, but this is definitely one of those movies where it works. I think that's works to its benefit, to think, why is he doing that? Why can I think of a reason why I would do that? Or what would it be like to be possessed, or like you said, be taken over by the darkness, So yeah, that scene scared the shit out of me, no doubt about it. Yeah, and there's scenes where even they try to leave. There's scenes where they try to leave, and like the trees and the vines grab the car. Yeah. Like this tree collapses right in front of the car, and then like Oliver Reed tries to get out and move the branches, and this like vine grabs him, and it's like, what the hell, man? It's so scary. And you got to remember, this is pre-Evil Dead. This is before Evil Dead. This is before movies like The Shining. So this really, I think, hits home with me. And there's also a scene where one of the characters dies, and this guy that I was talking about before kind of comes up to the room and takes her, and it's super creepy. But I think the next scene even creeped me out more because, like Burgess Meredith says, the house preserves itself.
Yeah.
You know, don't worry about it. And basically, after this character dies, this house that originally looked so grimy and grungy and stuff, they had a garden with all the flowers were dead. After this character dies, all the flowers are now vibrant and blooming. Yeah. And, like, I love Dan Curtis's sense of style, sense of horror here, because he really gets it. It's like through death, this house is preserving itself. It's rebirthing itself. Yes. And it's so simple yet so effective. I love this movie. I think this is one of those movies that more people should talk about.
I totally agree.
Goddamn classic.
Yeah, I said before, this movie reminds me of a more supernatural Shining. You know what I mean? Where it's about this house and the evil that dwells in this house. You know, and you were talking about the line at the beginning from Burgess Meredith. You know, the house will take care of itself. And you think, oh well, what does that mean? You know, it doesn't really mean much. But then, as the movie, I think that's obviously the theme of the movie. As the movie goes on, and there's that death scene, and like you said, the garden is looking much prettier and more vibrant. You go, oh shit, I get it. I understand, you know what I mean? So, and that's one of the great things, a lot of movies like this don't really bring it full circle so that people, they think, well, if you leave it to their imagination, it's much more scary. And sometimes that's true. But in this movie, it's a slow, gradual realization as to what's going on, and they don't make movies like that anymore. I don't think, for sure. I mean, I haven't seen one like that in such a long time. And
that's a classic slow burn horror movie with, a lot of twists and turns and creepy elements. And I don't know, this one for me is really high on like my list of like if things I had to recommend, this would be really high up there because I think more people should see this movie because it's severely underrated in my opinion.
Yep, absolutely. I'm with you 1,000%. If you're into haunted house, I don't want to say haunted. It's not. I don't know. I would call this a haunted house movie.
I would too.
Yeah, so if you're into that, this is definitely for you if you haven't seen it, for sure. This will probably be the best one you've ever seen. So,
full show, brother. What's your next pick?
What was I going to talk about? I got a couple, and I'm doing them in a different order. Let's talk about, this may be a surprise to the listeners. I know it was to you. I really like this movie. Again, I think this movie is fun but terrifying at the same time. There's a lot of very cool tricks going on in the. I don't want to say tricks, but visuals. Very cool visuals in this movie, and that's Rob Zombie's House of a Thousand Corpses. I really like this movie. The characters are cool. Captain Spaulding is incredible. Sid Haig playing Captain Spaulding. He's incredible. At the very beginning where he gets robbed, and the guy's counting to 3, and the guy's
fuck
like,
your mother, fuck your grandma.
Right, and most of all, fuck you. I just love that shit. You know what I mean? And he's all in their face, and they're talking about retards and stuff, and that's just kind of my shit. You know what I mean? That's kind of right in my wheelhouse. But and do I think that this is a really great movie or anything? No, of course not. I think The Devil's Rejects is a better movie overall, story wise and shot and everything. Now, Rob Zombie tried to do a little Dario Argento with the colors and things like that, which is fine. It didn't take away from it or anything like that. But he's not on the same par, obviously, as a Dario Argento. But I really like this movie. I think it's a fun movie, and actually, I believe it takes place on Halloween night. And the story is that these 2 guys and 2 girls are traveling across country and checking out roadside attractions. And it's kind of funny. Rainn Wilson and Chris Hardwick are in this movie, and they're the characters at the very beginning. And he asks Chris Hardwick, how much money did you put in the gas tank? And I think he said he put like $3 in or something like that. And so they have to stop and get gas again, and they find this place, Captain Spaulding's, which is like a gas station, a chicken place, and there's a ride inside and a bunch of things from murderers and weird stuff like alligator boys and got all kind of weird shit, like Ripley's Believe It or Not or whatever. But anyways, they go through and they're talking about this little ride in the back. It's kind of like a haunted house ride, at the fair or whatever. And he's telling them about Ed Gein and H.H. Holmes and all those weirdos. And at the very end, he talks about a local serial killer or murderer named Dr. Satan, who I think he was performing experiments on people without them knowing it. So the townsfolk decided they're going to hang him, and they hang him from a tree. And the next morning they go back to get his body, and his body's gone. So and Sid Haig tells these kids, hey, the tree's not very far from here. And they're like, oh, we got to see that. Where's that at? And he's like, nah, you don't want to go there. And it kind of reminded me of, like I said, the Hills Have Eyes. They wanted to go off the road, and the guy's like, you don't want to do that. You don't know what's out there, blah, blah. And it kind of reminded me of that kind of grindhouse, 70s type feel to it. But anyways, they finally talk him into giving directions to where it is, and on their way there, it starts to rain, and they have to pick up. Well, they don't have to, but they stop and pick up Sherry Moon Zombie, who looks incredible, who's absolutely gorgeous. And she's, she gets in the car and she's weird and crazy, and they ask her, do you know where this place is? And she's like, yeah, it's right by my house. I'll take you to my house. And something happens. I don't really want to tell the story if they haven't seen it, but something happens where their car breaks down, and her brother, she says, hey, my brother can come tow your car, and her and Rainn Wilson walk to their house, and just chaos ensues. Karen Black is the mother Firefly, and you got Otis, I'm drawing a blank on his name,
Bill Moseley.
Thank you, Jiminy Christmas. Bill Moseley plays the character of Otis, and he's wacky, and there's is it Christopher McGrory? Matthew. Golly, Ned. It's one of them days. But anyways, so chaos ensues, and all kind of shit happens. So, but I think that this is a fun movie at times. I think it can be very terrifying. I don't think it's very scary, but I think it can be definitely considered terrifying. What do you think?
I agree with you wholeheartedly. This is one of those movies that, while I agree with you. I don't think it's the greatest movie. Like, I wouldn't say this is a classic movie or anything. But I do think this is like a midnight movie. This is like one of those movies that it would be perfect to show this like they show movies like goddamn what the, Jesus, I'm drawing a blank. The Time Warp. That's the fucking Rocky Horror Picture Show. Holy shit!
There you go.
This is bad.
Yeah, I can see that.
I'm rusty as fuck.
I told you, man.
Yeah, I know. This is weird. We're recording. We were on the fucking ball. Now we're like, we got to try to get back.
Yeah.
But it's similar to a movie like that. It's a similar feel.
Yeah. Like a cult classic.
Yeah, very cult classic status. Yeah. And I love, again, like the atmosphere of the murder ride. Like when they're on that murder ride, I think it's super creepy, yet it's fun because Captain Spaulding is just such a great character. He's probably the best character Rob Zombie ever thought of, and Sid Haig portrays it perfectly.
Absolutely. He's the shit.
I love some of the scenes in the house with Bill Moseley and all these cheerleaders, and he's yelling at them and stuff. And I love it. It's pretty funny. The dinner scene was always a lot of fun. Karen Black is Mother Firefly, so Karen Black's been in 2 of these 3 thus far.
Yeah.
Karen Black's a little bit of horror royalty, but I don't know. I just love the whole kind of vibe of this movie. It's very Texas Chainsaw Massacre kind of feel.
Yes.
But it at the same time it very Halloween feel. He really captured that atmosphere really, really, really well of the spirit of Halloween. Yeah. And I actually caught this one the other night. I came home really late and I saw it on TV, and I immediately knew I had to watch it. I was like, I got to give it a watch. Even though the last 15 minutes or so is a little, I still think
I agree.
Kind of what the hell happened?
Yeah.
But I think this movie overall, I think, like every time I watch the opening credits and stuff, it's just a movie that enamors me. I think it is the perfect midnight movie, and dare I say, I think it's probably one of the last cult classic horror movies that exists right now.
Yeah.
I don't really know what after this would be. Like, I don't even know if that movie exists.
Right. I know. I agree. Cool.
Awesome.
I'm glad.
Awesome.
Yeah, that's a good movie. I'm glad I'm not the only one that enjoys it.
No, I'm sure there are people. I think there are people that do. I think it's one of those things like. We'll get into this right now, since I know one of my picks actually involves Mr. Zombie.
Oh yeah.
And that is his movie. It's not the ones you're thinking of. It's not Halloween or Halloween 2 or Devil's Rejects. It is actually his effort from 2013. It is The Lords of Salem.
Yes.
Now, this is a movie that I absolutely love, and I would say it's my favorite Rob Zombie film.
Wow.
Because in a lot of ways, he really was able to escape the kind of, I don't want to say aura, I guess we could say stench of what. Yeah, because a lot of his movies really were that gritty exploitation, like kind of. Even when he made Halloween, it felt like gritty exploitation.
I agree.
But which that wasn't what Halloween was. But saying that, I think this movie right here, he really dipped his toes into the like Euro atmospheric, creepy horror stuff like Dario Argento, Lucio Fulci, stuff like they did.
Yeah. So do you feel that this is like his most obviously? I mean, I know you do, but I'm going to ask it anyway. Like his most artistic movie?
Yes.
Okay.
Definitely most artistic movie because he was trying to shed, I think, that kind of aura of the whole. All your movies have people that talk like white trash, and all your movies are homaging Texas Chainsaw Massacre. This movie doesn't do either one of those things. There are hardly any cursing in this movie that I know of. I think there's only 2 F words in this whole movie.
Yeah, that's definitely out of the ordinary for Rob.
Yeah, for Rob Zombie, that's insane. I think the first 30 seconds of Halloween, you have like 10 fucks thrown in there.
Right.
But it's a great movie because it tells the story of Sherry Moon Zombie, who does play the lead in this movie, and I think she does a great job. I don't care what anybody says. I think she does a fine job in this movie. And she's always great to look at, which is a damn plus.
Exactly.
She's like one of this. She's a part of this trio of like radio station people, and Ken Foree is one of them. And I love Ken. Of course, I'm just a complete mark for anybody from Dawn of the Dead.
Sure.
Like I remember when I first turned this on, I was like, oh man, I wish Scott Reiniger could have been the other host.
Yeah, no kidding, right?
The Dawn of the Dead mark that I am. I was like, that would have been so cool. But so they on this like kind of radio station in Salem, and she gets this weird package at the station from this band called the Lords, and it's their record, and they kind of play it on the air. And it kind of starts to affect all the women in the town of Salem in a weird way that hear this song. And it's a really eerie kind of song, and it creeps me the hell out. If you've seen the movie, you know what I'm talking about.
Right.
It's a very creepy, eerie little song, and it's so well done. And then basically weird shit starts unfolding, and you start to learn a little bit about the character's name's Heidi. You start to learn about her past a little bit. She lives in this creepy old apartment, and I don't know. It's just it's one of those movies where Rob Zombie said, screw it. I'm going to go that Euro cult visual style way. I'm going to make a movie that has a slow burn, has some weird shit in it that makes no sense, but at the end I'm going to have all these crazy visuals that will light up the screen, and whether you like it or not, you're going to remember this thing.
Yeah.
I think it was a really good statement for Rob Zombie because he really proved that whatever people say about him and that he's only a one-trick pony and stuff, I think he proved those people wrong. I really do, because he goddamn proved that, hey, this is my movie. This is something, I'm going to try something original. I'm going to take chances, and, win, lose, or draw. This is my movie, and this is how, the horror movie I wanted to make.
Right.
And I think that's a really important thing, and I think that more filmmakers should try to do this. And listen, I know there are people that hate it. I know there are people that despise it, actually. But I think it's one of those movies that it really does take a chance. It's not afraid to be original. It's not afraid to be a little bit different, and it's not afraid to pay homage to the great Dario Argento.
Yes.
So I don't know. I love this movie. I think it's perfect to watch around this time of the year. Takes place in Salem, which I visited a few times, and
very cool.
I absolutely love this movie.
That's cool. I've never been to Salem. I want to check that out. You want me to play a little bit? You want me to play a little bit of the music?
Yeah, okay. Man, play it. It's super creepy.
I'm gonna try to play a different one just so that there's no ad at the beginning, but we'll see. How
there was an ad at the last.
It was cinnamon frosted flakes.
Yeah, it was Frosted Flakes. Yeah.
Here,
we just really wanted to promote Frosted Flakes. We're not here for any other reason.
Yeah, they're sending us a huge check. So let's see if
they're endorsing us.
Right.
Me and Tony the Tiger are bros.
Right. I don't even know if this is the actual music, but I know it's from the soundtrack. So let's see if this is it. If not, we'll just play the other one.
Sweet
Frosted Flakes
and the frosted crunch you love together at last.
The frosted crunch that you love.
You didn't do that by accident, everybody.
No.
That was totally on purpose. Ooh, Meg Foster.
Yeah.
Welcome.
Is this it?
I don't think so.
Okay. All right, let's try the other one real quick. Sorry. That's what I get for...
Maybe another Frozen Flakes commercial.
Oh, no, it didn't do it this time.
Oh, nice.
We'll just go ahead and end it there. If you don't think that's creepy, there's probably something wrong with you.
Just a little bit.
Yeah.
What did you think of this one, though, man?
Well, you already know, I wasn't a huge fan of this movie. Now, I will tell you that the cast in this movie is incredible. Obviously, you got Sherry Moon Zombie and Jeff Daniel Phillips, which we kind of talked about a little bit. Jeff Daniel Phillips kind of looks exactly like Rob Zombie. So a lot of people, and myself included, think he doesn't want his wife in a movie with, like a typical leading man, So I don't know. I just found that funny because, like I told you, I think that for the first 20 or 30 minutes of this movie, I thought it was Rob Zombie. I'm like, something was off, but I thought it was him. So that's kind of weird. But this movie also has Meg Foster, like you said. It has Ken Foray, Dee Wallace, Maria Conchita Alonso, Michael Berryman, Sid Haig. So, anybody who's a cult movie fan, there's something for everybody in there. Meg Foster in the 80s was super, super hot. She was in They Live. She's got those amazing eyes. Now, she's definitely, she's definitely hit a wall with her looks, but I mean, what do you expect? She was, oh my gosh, she'll be 70 next month.
That's a creep factor, though, when you see her
is.
food and shit. Like, it's kind of absolutely terrifying.
Yeah, it really is. But she was gorgeous back then, and so like I said, there's some for the acting wise. There's something for everybody in this movie. The acting in this movie is really good. I just think I only saw this movie once, and I own it on Blu-ray, but I just think I didn't get it. You know what I mean? Maybe it's just a mood thing, or that day. You know how that is sometimes. You watch a movie in a certain mood, and then you hate it for 10 years until you watch it again. I definitely want to check it out again, just because. Well, first of all, like you said, Sherry Zombie's in it, who I think is really, really attractive, regardless of her acting abilities. I mean, some movies she's good, some movies she's not so good, but she's definitely not, like House of a Thousand Corpses, for instance. She was weird and stuff, but I didn't think it was that great of a job. In this movie, I didn't say, oh my God, that's terrible acting or anything like that. You know what I mean? But due to the fact that I couldn't get into the movie, I guess I never thought about it. So there is one thing in this movie that bothered me, that I thought was very terrifying, and there's a lot of naked old women in this movie. Now I don't mean to offend older women, obviously. I mean, look, if you like to be naked, you like to be naked, but it just wasn't for me. So if you're into older women, if you're into gilfs, as they say, that would be grandmas, because they're that age. This would be.
I hope no one says that.
If you are into old witches who get naked, then
old witches and bitches.
Right. This is definitely for you. But I do need to watch it again, because I only did watch it the one time. So
here's a question.
Sure.
I saw this on a review the other day, and I thought, is there any truth to this?
Okay.
And I would love to ask you, unbiasedly,
Sure.
please answer this unbiasedly.
Sure.
Do you think because this movie was made by Rob Zombie is part of the reason you didn't fully like it?
That's a great question, John. Probably, because this was
I thought so.
This was on the heels of the Halloween movies, which I absolutely 1,000% despise. Both of those movies, despise them with a passion. I thought the first one was an okay made movie. The second one, in my opinion, was just absolute trash. And I'm not trying to offend anybody. I don't want anybody to think that I don't like you because you like it. I just really, because I'm a purist, I like the original, and I don't, my generation never ever needed to know why. This generation,
very true.
They want to know why, and that kind of bothers me. John Carpenter said one time, to give a reason why is to take the story away. So, for me, that's the way, that kind of rings true for me. So yeah, on the heels of those movies, I absolutely, it very well could have something to do with it. I will tell you this movie didn't do well, and I'm sure you know that. Not that has anything to do with its merits. You know what I mean? But
it really was in select theaters, though, right? I mean,
yeah.
They didn't give this a wide release, and
right.
Understandably so, knowing the subject.
Sure. But what I do think is sad is that it forced, in one way or another, Rob to go back to that, that grimy, gritty with 31.
Yeah.
Which is a garbage movie, too. I mean, I shouldn't say that. It's a very passable, it's a very okay movie. You know what I mean? I don't want to knock it because I watched the whole thing. I sat and watched both of these movies all the way through. So, that, there's enough there to keep you going, whether it's just her or, Sherry Zombie or not. But he just, because it didn't have a lot of success critically or money-wise, I feel like he felt like he had to go back to what he had done before. I really wished he would have kept on the track of Lords of Salem and made something out of the ordinary. I really do.
I believe his original plan was to go on and make a movie about a hockey player. He wanted to be done with horror.
Was his name Jason Voorhees? No, not that kind of hockey player.
I wish he was that kind of hockey player. That would have been awesome. We imagine Rob Zombie directed Friday the 13th.
Right. So you mean like a drama, or?
He was gonna. I think it was like a biopic.
Really?
About this guy on the Philadelphia Flyers. That was the next project. Actually, for promotion interviews for this movie, you could see him wearing a Flyers jersey.
Huh. Interesting.
And like at the end of every one of the interviews, he would be like, "I'm done with horror. I want to make a movie with this hockey guy."
Yeah.
And I was like, "I love this Lords of Salem. I'm gonna watch it just because I love this movie. I'm gonna watch whatever the movie is about this guy." And that movie never ended up happening.
Yeah.
And he said he was done with horror.
Yeah. I got 2 words for you: Wes Craven. Right? You can't.
3 words for you: never say never.
Right? You know what I mean? Yeah, you can't.
Never say never in this genre, because if you get George Romero didn't want to be typecast in the genre.
Right.
He ended up being typecasted in the genre. He tried to make There's Always Vanilla. You know what I mean?
Right.
So
right. Exactly.
It doesn't. Sometimes it's fate, and you got to let it go as it is. I know he had a hard time financing 31.
Yeah.
Which is, I don't know. I haven't seen 31 actually.
Oh, you haven't?
No.
Yeah, it's very, I don't know, like a mixture between, say, House of a Thousand Corpses and Saw or something like that, I would say. I don't know. Maybe that's not a good comparison, but again, it was very pedestrian in my opinion. I wouldn't say it was the worst movie I've ever seen, but it definitely wasn't in the top 2,000.
I heard a lot of bad. But anyway, this is not a Rob Zombie retrospective.
Oh yeah, I forgot. What were we doing? No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah, we could do that now. Yeah, so totally. We'll talk about Halloween too.
Oh shit, that'd be like an 8-minute episode.
Yeah, Jesus Christ.
I know,
It would
right?
be Don ranting for 7 minutes, and I'd be like, meh, and it would go on.
You'd be like,
all right,
like,
what is your next pick?
I'm gonna go with I forgot about this one. We only talked about it an hour ago. The Gate.
Yes,
from
classic.
What year was that? That had to have been in the late
87,
I believe. Yeah. So anybody who doesn't know, Steven Dorff is like 11 years old in this movie, or 12 years old in this movie, and he plays a character who him and his best friend find a portal to, I guess you would say, hell or whatever, in his backyard, and when his parents go away, the demons come out of the ground in the backyard, and they kind of have to fight them off. And as I was saying, one of the reasons that I really, really love this movie, first of all, this is a very typical mid to late 80s kid horror movie. And when I say that, I mean, like, it's about a kid who's 10 or 11 or 12 years old and his best friend who have to fight off these demons. And, the one kid has an older sister, and and her friend, or I don't know, I don't remember exactly what the dynamic was, but there's the girl's cute in the movie, but she's she's still in high school, and whatever. But for me at the time, I think I told you this, I didn't really have that one really close friend that always had your back no matter what. Like the guy who would fight with or for you and not even know what the situation is. You know what I mean? I don't think I ever really had, I had a good group of friends, but none like that. And, I was always the much better friend in the situation. You know what I mean? So, but anyways, so that's why I love these types of movies. But this movie here is, first of all, it was made on no budget. The special effects for that time were really, really good. It kind of reminds me of early, and this isn't a good thing, but it kind of reminds me of early full moon movies, in the fact that they had no money and they had to really do some pretty cool special effects. Some worked, some didn't. In this movie, it worked. I don't really want to give anything away for anybody who hasn't seen it, but I really love this movie. And for me, Halloween always seemed to be a time of hanging out with my friends and, maybe doing stupid shit, toilet paper in somebody's house or cars, you know what I mean? Things like that. So a lot of my picks are about, having a good time with a bunch of people. And this is another one of those movies. One of the things, this and the next movie, I think I said this on the Lost episode here, is that these are two movies that if you had a kid who was 10, 11, 12, 13 years old who was having a party, a Halloween party at his house, you could play this movie in the background while they're doing all the other things, pin the tail on the donkey or bobbing for apples or whatever they fucking kids do nowadays. But people would really enjoy it. You know what I mean? So that's one of the reasons I picked this movie and my last pick. But they're just fun, and it's a good time, and people can enjoy it together. So, but I know you like this movie. Tell me, talk to me.
Yes, I am a big fan. I always loved that creepy little music coming from the grave. This is one of those other movies too, to me, that we talked about. I think it's great because while it's not trying to be a movie that is uber serious and uber frightening, right, it is frightening in its own way, yes, and it's fun in its own way. Absolutely. And that, to me, I think is the perfect happy medium when you want to watch a movie around the Halloween time to get you into the spirit of the season. And actually, a good story. I remember going trick-or-treating when I was a kid with my sister and my cousins and stuff. And then I remember we came home, we would trade candy and sort candy and whatnot. My big thing was the Twix bar. I don't know.
Nice.
I don't know how if you're a big Twix guy.
Oh, of course, dude.
What candies did you like?
Oh man, first of all, you gotta understand, I was a fat little kid. So
as was I.
Whatever candy was in my bag is the candy that I liked. I wasn't a big fan of like popcorn balls or anything,
they suck.
Right, or candy corn. But everything else, man, I love Snickers, Reese cups, obviously Twix. I love Twix, Kit Kats. Holy shit!
I remember I used to have a social studies teacher, and he used to send me. This was in like middle school. He used to send me. He'd say, "Tell Mr. Whatever I need a hit." And I'd be like, what? And he would be like, he'd send me to the room, and I'd have to say that to the other teacher. He said, just say it. I was like, okay. So I would go to the other room. I'm thinking like I'm like the middleman in a drug deal or something.
Right, no kidding, right?
And like I get into the room, and like he's like, oh, hello. He's like, what do you need? I was like, Mr. K needs a hit. And he goes, oh, okay. So he runs over to the back, and he pulls out this little like orange box. And then he opens it, and there's all these little orange packages of Reese's peanut butter cups.
Oh man!
And they were the singles, so he gave me the one. He says, "Here's his hit," and I was like, "Oh shit!" I was like, "This is all." And so I remember going back to Mr. K and being like, "Here's your hit," and he would be like, "Thank you," and then he would go teach the lesson, and right. I don't know. I remember weird things like that around this time of the year. But yeah, I can remember sorting candy with my cousins and sister and watching this movie, The Gate, on TV as a kid, and I just always loved it. It always put me in a happy mood. It's one of those movies that it puts a smile on your face from beginning, middle to end. It's just a really fun watch. I love the characters in it. They kind of remind me a bit, as we were talking about before, a little bit of like River Phoenix and Will Wheaton.
Yes.
Like in Stand By Me.
Absolutely.
These two characters that always have each other's back. I just love movies like that because it's genuine. It's really nice to see that genuine feel in a movie like this.
Yeah.
And I just love it. It's like a classic. It almost reminds me of like a scary story to tell in the dark or something.
Yep.
And it's always just been super creepy to me, but at the same time a lot of fun. And I think that's what the Halloween season's all about. I think The Gate is a prime choice, and it's one that I'm almost 100% sure I'm going to watch within the next 2 days, because that's, of all the ones you said, that's the one I really want to go back and rewatch.
Nice. One of the things that's refreshing about The Gate and movies of its ilk of its time even, is that there's sarcasm, but nowhere near as much sarcasm as there is in the movies today. You know what I mean? And that's kind of refreshing to watch. That's maybe that might be part of the reason that I enjoy going back and watching these old movies. It's a true, it's like you said, it's like a true depiction of what two friends are, kind of like Stand By Me, and what real friends are all about, without the sarcasm. Because, I'm as guilty as the next person of being very sarcastic. So it's nice to go back and watch these movies where, there's a little bit, but it doesn't go overboard. So that's one of the things I love about it, for sure. What about you, man? What do you got next on your list?
Oh, okay. So next on my list, in my list of wow, did I botch that? Halloween horror picks. Halloween holopicks is what
There
I
you go.
said. So Halloween
Same thing.
holopicks, y'all.
Same thing.
Yeah, same shit. So I have a film directed by the man in horror, in my opinion. Even though now he's actually one of the few that Hold Your Breath is not typecasted anymore. At least I don't think, because now he's making movies like Aquaman and Fast and Furious and whatnot.
Right.
And that is Mr. James Wan, and he made a film. Post the success of his Saw movie, he made a film with Mr. Leigh Whannell called Dead Silence.
Yes.
And now this is one of those movies that's we were talking about before. This is like an urban legend kind of movie, and that's kind of the reason why I think both of us really like movies like that, because basically it tells the story of this young couple, and they're getting ready to eat, and the husband goes out to before the husband goes out to get dinner, they get a weird package in the mail, and it ends up being this old ventriloquist dummy. And they're like, oh, this is weird. So he goes out to pick up the dinner, and basically while he's out to go pick up the dinner, the wife gets murdered, and her tongue is cut out when he gets back. And she's like completely dead and laying on the floor, and the dummy is laying there in the blood. And he's like, he thinking the dummy did it, or the person who sent the dummy did it. Right. So basically, there's this whole investigation. All the police think he did it. There's a cop played by Donnie Wahlberg in this movie who does a good job.
Yes.
He's chasing him. He's basically on the run, and then they start to tell you a little bit of the story about this ventriloquist lady. Oh, is this Phil? How do we add him?
Oh crap! Sorry, I apologize. I was looking at something else.
Okay.
Here, I'll just go ahead and I'll go.
How do you add him?
I'll just call him.
He's calling you.
Oh, I don't see it. Here, let me. Sorry, guys. There we go. He'll probably join in here in a second.
Are you on?
No, he still can. Oh.
Okay, yeah, here we go.
There you go.
Can you hear us?
Can you hear me? Will?
Can you hear me now?
Good.
Can you hear me now?
All right, maybe we should...
I see Will's on here.
Yeah. Maybe
I guess can he not hear us? Oh, I guess he can't hear us. Hold on, I'll shoot him out. Oh, okay, he ended his call.
Yeah, actually I did that. I'm going to try it again.
Okay.
Okay, here we go.
There he is.
All right, cool. We're back
Beautiful.
in business.
All right. So, Will, you obviously don't know the story, but as John and I were finishing up the original episode, my computer restarted itself, and we lost everything. We were literally like an hour and 28 minutes in or something crazy. So I lost the recording. Can you hear me? Uh-oh.
Yeah, you're good.
Oh, okay, good. All right. So we're doing it. This is the second time around. We're about 50 minutes in. So
Halloween horror picks take 2.
Yeah, right. And we were just talking about Dead Silence, which was one of John's favorites.
Yeah, I was just telling a little bit of the plot. And basically, there's this urban legend of this old woman by the name of Mary Shaw. And I love that James Wan and Leigh Whannell do this. They have this little nursery rhyme thrown in there. And it goes, beware the stare of Mary Shaw. She had no children, only dolls. And if you see her in your dreams, never ever scream, or she'll rip your tongue out at the seam. And basically, that's the whole gimmick of this movie. With Madman, it's don't say his name above a whisper. With this movie, it's don't scream, or Mary Shaw is going to cut your tongue out.
Nice.
So right then and there, I think Leigh Whannell and James Wan really got me invested in this movie. And I think all these little creepy dolls and the town of Ravens Fair and him slowly but surely unraveling the mystery of who killed his wife, why. I think it's a really underrated little film, and I think it really has a great atmosphere. I actually look at it kind of like as like the Prince of Darkness of his career.
Oh, there you
It's
go.
a bit different, but it's like, and it has a lot of that Italian vibe in it again.
Yes.
But it's a super creepy ghost story. Well, not ghost story, but ventriloquist killer doll story. Really, really good stuff with a great twist ending.
Yeah, I think that the killer doll story it's really hard to tell. You know what I mean? And I think like I said, I've only seen this movie one time, but I thought it was done pretty well. And what I do have to bring up the fact that this has a really good cast. Like you said, it has Donnie Wahlberg, Amber Valletta's in it, who's obviously beautiful. But I think Ryan Quanten, who plays the husband,
went on to do True Blood, right?
Yeah, he went on to do True Blood, and there's a movie, and I know I'm getting off topic here. There's a movie he did back in 2010 called Red Hill, and he's Australian. For anybody who doesn't know, you would never know, watching.
You would never know in this movie, no.
But it's called Red Hill, and he plays a small town sheriff who has to stay alive on his first day on the job in a small town. So, if you get a chance. Awesome movie, dude. Awesome movie. Yeah, so,
I might give that a watch.
And it's not horror. I mean, I guess it is a little bit, but it's it's more of a action drama. But I don't even want to tell you about it because it's incredible. But I think that those three people they do a really good job in the movie, as I remember. Like I said, I really like Ryan Quanten. Like you said, he went on to do True Blood and things like that. So he's pretty good. But I definitely have to go back and watch this because I haven't seen it probably since it came out on DVD. Not because I thought it was a terrible movie, just because probably too much going on, or maybe there were a lot of other movies coming out at the time or whatever. And I do have a little bit of a problem with the praise that's heaped on James Wan, but for me, I do realize I'm not stupid enough to think that I'm like some kind of movie director critique guy. You know what I mean? So I understand why people like him. I think his movies are good movies, but I just really, I have a hard time putting his name in with my heroes, with the Carpenters and the Cravens, and
I could totally understand that.
So, but so that I don't want to take anything away from his movies at all because I do enjoy them. I watch every one that comes out. It's just really hard. I think the guys that are at the top of that list are kind of locked in for me at this point in my life.
I wouldn't say he's on their level, but I'd say
for this generation.
As of right now, he's number one, bar none. I don't even think there's anybody comes close. I think the score in this movie is really good too. It takes me back to movies like Magic from 1976, I believe, with Anthony Hopkins. Just really creepy, atmospheric doll movie. Really good stuff. But Will, have you ever seen Dead Silence? And if so, what did you think?
Yeah. So first, I'll just comment on the James Wan thing. That I think it is very much a generational thing. Where obviously you've got your Carpenter, Craven, Romero, or the Holy Trinity.
Right.
But as far as I'm concerned, I would say that James Wan is number 4, if for nothing else, but because I grew up with him.
Gotcha.
And in an era of nothing but shitty remakes and nothing good, he gave us Dead Silence, Saw, Insidious, The Conjuring, Conjuring 2 at this point.
Sure.
So a lot of it was just like, for me at least, it was hit after hit after hit after hit. And even though now he's kind of drifting away from horror, like I think he did one of the Fast and Furious, and now he's doing Aquaman actually.
Yeah.
Which is actually, when I first heard he was doing Fast and the Furious, I was really upset. I was like, no, he's the one guy we have.
Right.
Yeah. It's true.
So like, I think maybe if I was born in like 2040, and now looking back at everything, maybe I wouldn't put Juan as number 4. But for right now, just because I'm growing up with him and I'm seeing him really in comparison to the current climate, I would say he is number 4.
Huh.
Honestly, for nothing else, because there is no one else.
Yeah, I think that's very, very interesting because I was thinking the other way around. I was thinking, well, if it, putting myself in that position, if it was 2040, maybe he would be in the top 5. You know what I mean? So I kind of feel the other way around. You know what I mean? Maybe if I had some space between me and my childhood, even more space. You know what I mean? That maybe he would be in there. I'd be a little bit more objective about it. It's kind of interesting that you say that. So I have a question for both of you about this topic. Then, so you said you would consider him number 4. So John, I think I know the answer to you, but let me just ask the question, and the fans can respond too. Hooper or Juan?
Hooper.
I knew you were going to say that.
You have to say Hooper because
Texas
he
Chainsaw.
made arguably the greatest horror movie of all time. But overall, I would say James Wan. And actually, this would probably shock people. James Wan financially was the more successful guy. He made The Conjuring was the biggest blockbuster movie of that year. Saw was the biggest blockbuster movie of that year. Insidious was one of the biggest blockbuster movies of that year. So that right then and there, you got 3 movies that made a shit ton of money. Fast and Furious was going to make money regardless because it's fucking all these idiot. No offense if you like those movies, but I think they're kind of retarded personally. I don't get. It's Fast and Furious 7. They went from racing to saving the world. Like, how does that happen? Like, I don't get. Like, I'll never understand. But no, you have to say Hooper because, at least in my opinion, I would say Hooper. I would have to say Hooper. This is an opinionated thing,
right?
But I would be. I could put him number 5. Like, okay, maybe I like Cronenberg films a little bit better, and Argento. I mean, you have to add these guys in there.
Absolutely.
But like, would James Wan be in my top 10? Yeah,
sure.
No doubt about it. He would probably be low. He'd probably be number 8 or number 9.
Right.
I've never really thought about making a list.
Yeah,
but
me neither.
No, he'd be on that list because Saw is an all-time classic. Insidious and The Conjuring are all-time classics. And what I find funny about this movie, Dead Silence, is that it really was kind of his only flop.
Yeah.
I know he made a movie Death Sentence and it flopped, but like I think at the same time that was because it came out the same week as Halloween, Rob Zombie's Halloween, which, that makes sense why it flopped. But this movie, I'm surprised it flopped because I feel like it would make money now.
Yeah, I got news for you. In my opinion, Death Sentence is his best movie.
Death Sentence is an amazing movie.
Very underrated.
I really like to agree because I think that's an amazing movie.
I do too.
Even though people kind of hated it.
Yeah, they did.
I don't get why because I thought that was awesome. That was like a remake of Death Wish that was just called something else.
Exactly.
But what would you guys say about the Hooper Wan discussion?
Go ahead, Will. What do you think?
Yeah, I have to agree that Texas Chainsaw is better than any movie that James Wan has made. So if you're going by that scale, who made the best one? It's Hooper.
Gotcha.
But my only experience with I've only seen Texas Chainsaw.
Oh, okay.
And I only know that he also made, is it Funhouse or Funland?
Funhouse.
Which one? Funhouse. That I haven't seen, but it's one I know he's done.
Right.
So just in my head, he only has 2. And as I said before, James Wan had hit after hit after hit after hit and is still going.
Right.
So it's one of those. Would I rather have one movie that's a 10, or would I rather have 5 movies that are 8s and 9s? And I want 5 movies that are 8 and 9s.
That's true. He's definitely more consistent. Like
yeah, I agree.
I don't think Tobe Hooper has as many good movies as James Wan. Like, I really don't. Like, we did the retrospective. We talked about Life Force we really liked. We liked Texas Chainsaw, obviously, and The Funhouse. Those were like the 3 we kind of were like, these are great.
Yep.
I've never seen Eaten Alive, which actually I think I'd really probably like that movie, considering the subject matter.
I still haven't sent you that, have I? I still have that in a box for you. I haven't sent it out yet. But yeah. I mean, I can definitely see where you guys are coming from. But, you're talking about success, successful movies and moneymakers. And I mean, my personal belief is that money has nothing to do with it. Because in my opinion, there's 2 movies that I consider the best movies of all time. Okay, the first one is Jaws, and it made a ass load of money. Okay, but my second favorite movie is The Thing, and The Thing is an absolute flop. So I don't necessarily think we should judge a movie's greatness based on how much money it brings in. And you talked about how much money the movies, The Conjuring and all those movies made, but you also have to understand too is that definitely does not make a movie great. I mean, I'm sure you'd agree with that. Look at the Fast and the Furious movies.
I know what you're saying, but like at the same time, I think it's something along the lines of were any of Invaders from Mars didn't make any money. It's not like it became a cult classic after the fact like The Thing did. It wasn't like it was a great movie that just didn't bring in people. I don't think Hooper was as consistent of a filmmaker as James Wan is, because I think
agree.
He was able to. Hooper was great at capturing atmosphere, but I think when you get into anything pretty much post Life Force, I can't even name one good movie out of any of that. And maybe Body Bags, maybe. But I don't know, man. I would go with Wan as the more consistent, but I gotta put Hooper over him because of Texas Chainsaw alone. But I that's not discrediting James Wan. I think overall I'd agree with Will. I think I'd rather 5 8 or 9s than just 1 10. But I think you both make good points.
I mean, look at a movie. Now I know there's a lot of controversy about this movie, but look at a movie like Poltergeist. Poltergeist made almost $77 million in 1982. That's a very, very successful movie. Now, again, I know there's a lot of controversy surrounding it, but look at the cult status of a movie like Texas Chainsaw 2. As a matter of fact,
That's true.
Will, aren't you a big fan of Texas Chainsaw 2?
I actually have not seen it yet. It's on my queue for my home stretch last week of Halloween to watch it. I saw The Witch. I saw the new Child's Play movie. I've got Chainsaw 2, Prom Night, a couple more queued up that I'm going through every day this week.
I'm curious I would really like to know, what did you think of The Witch?
All right, a quick tangent here.
That's okay.
This whole thing is.
Yes.
It was very well made. The acting was great. The atmosphere was awesome. It was not what I was expecting going into it. Mm-hmm. So that just kind of caught me a bit off guard. I was expecting a much more, not in your face, but a more action-packed, I'll say, for lack of a better expression.
Sure.
But it still was good. I'm gonna rewatch it knowing what it is.
Yeah.
So I don't let my preconceived notions mess it up. But I thought, I'm blanking on all their names, but I thought the dad acted really well.
Yeah.
I really liked the scene where the girl who, spoiler, she's milking the cow and blood starts coming out.
Right.
I was talking to someone about it, and they said that it was a fairy tale.
Sure.
That movie is exactly what people of that time period would tell each other around a campfire.
Sure. Yeah.
And I think that I heard that was like, shit, you're right.
Yeah. It reminded me of.
It was such like.
Go ahead.
You go.
Well, I was just gonna say it reminded me a lot of an M. Night Shyamalan movie. Like The Village or something like that. That's kind of.
Would you say that in a good sense or a bad sense?
Well, I mean, I would consider it a good sense. I mean, if you like M. Night, you know what I mean. I'm a fan.
Night.
M. Night.
Tuesday night. I like Tuesday night.
Yeah, me too. Fridays.
Not anymore, but Jesus.
Yeah.
She really let herself go. Holy shit. But all right. Sorry, we went off on like 4 different tangents there.
Right, and I did want to bring up one more thing though.
Go ahead.
Something that we forgot. A huge one that we forgot about Tobe Hooper, and that's Salem's Lot.
Oh shit! Yeah. No, I do like Salem's Lot.
Yeah.
I will say I think Will makes a great point that you got 5 or 6 really good movies on Juan's resume, and with Hooper, I only really think of one, but you got a couple more. I'd say Funhouse and Salem's Lot and Life Force. You got 3 really good movies too there. So that's tough. But let's wrap up Dead Silence. Will, have you ever seen Dead Silence?
Yeah, I saw it once. So I don't fully remember everything. There are just a few things that stand out. The atmosphere was really good. I particularly remember the opening scene where they're just in their apartment. And it's in such a grayscale, and she gets the package, opens it, the doll's really creepy looking. And how that was just really well. I remember the ghost of Mary Shaw being really crazy, and how she rips your tongue out. That looked really cool. There's one scene I remember towards the ending where they're in on a stage or a set or something of a play, and you see all these different dolls in their cases.
Oh yeah,
did that happen?
Yes.
Yeah, it was
where they're lined up on shelves, right?
Right.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah,
they all start turning their heads slowly but surely.
That's
it's
awesome.
really scary.
Yes, and it's so creepy. I remember because how I heard of James Wan was Insidious, and then you were like, yeah, he's done this. So Insidious was my first, then I saw Death Sentence, and then this. And this one is my second favorite of those 4.
That's nice.
Yeah.
I
really really well done.
Yeah, I think it is a really well done movie. It's one of those movies. I also like that he, during the scenes of when someone's going to get killed, he cuts out all the excess sound.
Yes.
The click, the ticking clock, the droplets dropping from the water faucet. I mean, just little things like that. James Wan, it's like he gets points with me because it's not like the Eli Roth thing where he's a fan yet you can't do anything about it. James Wan, he's a fan, and he homages in a good way. It always feels genuine to me. But alrighty, so Will, let's get into. I know you talked about some of your picks. I don't know if you completely finished. If not, if you want to talk about other stuff, go ahead. I mean, your other picks.
Yeah, let me,
This is from the Lost episode, by the way. We did talk about some movies with Will. We talked about Halloween 3, Creepshow, and Goosebumps.
This one,
which was a lot of fun to talk about. If you want to talk about those again, we can.
I wanted to play this.
Yeah.
I wanted to play this real quick.
Oh, there you go.
Happy, happy Halloween, Halloween, Halloween. Happy, happy Halloween, Silver Shamrock. Happy, happy Halloween.
Yeah. So, anyways, just so everybody knows, on YouTube there's a video you can play the Silver Shamrock theme for 10 hours and 31 minutes. So
good.
You want me to do that right now?
I'm gonna throw the worst Halloween party ever. Just that song.
Right.
No, yeah, Halloween 3 Season of the Witch is such a classic. In my opinion, I think it really gets a unwarranted bad rap just because it has the Halloween name attached to it. Which, even though the original plan was for that to actually be Halloween 2, because Carpenter wanted it to just be an anthology series.
Right.
But then the first one was what it was, and the studio really demanded he make it. Like, he talks about writing Halloween 2 and how, like, he's, like, proud of it, but he hated doing it.
Right.
So...
And he was drunk when he wrote the script.
Yeah.
Nice. But yeah, Halloween 3, it's basically just, like, these Halloween masks. There's a witch, a skeleton, and a pumpkin. And if the kids are wearing the masks while watching the song that we just heard, is like a commercial every day. And if on Halloween you watch that channel with the commercial, this weird witch magic thing kind of happens, and your face turns into what the mask is. And there's this great scene where they show this one, like, pampered rich kid who's, like, a fat fuck, and we hate him. He's, like, 10 years old.
Right.
And he's wearing the pumpkin mask, and it fucking turns his face into a pumpkin, and, like, bugs and, like, snakes and worms and shit starts coming out.
Nice.
And
That's
it's just
terrifying.
Yeah.
really good. It's kind of funny how, like, I don't want to say it's campy, but for most of the film it's very light in the sense that there's no, like, scary score going on, or there's no, like, in-your-face scares at all. But then once it gets to the end, like, it gets really intense where the main character is trying to stop the broadcast and stuff. And it just goes from 0 to 100 really quickly.
Yes.
And it's one of those...
Tom Atkins is awesome.
Oh man. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's one of those kind of you decide what the ending is because they leave it ambiguous.
Yes.
And I think that's also a great point about it, is because then you can just talk about it and argue about it forever.
Right. Right. Absolutely. Yeah, I love this movie. I mean, I think I told you guys, for the first 10 years after I saw this movie, I didn't like it just because I thought it advertised something that it wasn't. But since then, I mean, I really, really enjoy watching this movie. The Scream Factory Blu-ray is incredible. Tom Atkins is really good. Stacey Nelkin, who, there's not a... I don't believe there's a ton of nudity in this movie or anything like that, but Stacey Nelkin I thought was attractive. Dan O'Herlihy, who plays Mr. Cochran, kind of the bad guy who runs the company that's... He runs the company that sells these masks. And I think it's really cool, and I really feel that it's amazing that even today, they still sell these masks online. You know what I mean? Same exact looking masks and everything. So it gives you an idea of how some people have really, really loved this movie, and they've really come to consider it a classic. And I think, Will, in the Lost episode, you said if it didn't have the name Halloween on it, this would be even bigger film than it was. So I totally agree with you. What do you think, John?
Oh, I agree too. I mean, this movie is one of those movies that, again, it's very original, it's very different, and it has the spirit of Halloween in it.
Yes.
Like, more so than any other movie in this franchise, it has that great atmosphere. Well, obviously the other movies have good atmosphere, but this movie has that Halloween spirit, and it captured it in a bottle. And it's really, really one of those movies that I always love to watch around this time. It's one that would have made my list, but I definitely, like Will said on the Lost episode, I tried to go more obscure. I tried to go a little bit, outside the box, and I think this movie is just really awesome. And for the people that hate it, I'll never understand why, really, because it's one of those movies. There's nothing quite like it. It's very quirky. It's very different, but I think it hits home with me and a lot of diehard horror fans.
Yeah, you guys talked about the tagline. You want to bring that up? last
The
episode?
night no one came home.
The night no one
Thought
comes
I was
home.
joking about.
Yeah, right.
Because the first two, it's like, oh, the night he came home, more of the night he came home, the night no one came
right.
home. It's like, what the fuck, man?
Well, you got to share your story of going to Suncoast Video with John.
Okay, yeah, so like we're like 10 years old, and there's this DVD store that's since closed in the mall by us. And John would go there all the time, so I was like, yeah, let's go. And we go. I bought like Resurrection Part 3 and a third film I don't remember. And John got the New Line Cinema trilogy of the of the Friday movies. Thank you. And so like I get home and I look at the cover, and it's the eerie. It's orange with. It's the whole thing's orange and black is like the kind of grayscale that is. Orange scale, I guess you'd call it.
Right.
And you see like the creepy pumpkin mask and like these 3 kids like dressed up for Halloween, and in evil yellow letters is the night no one came home. ... And I just look at him and I'm like, are you fucking kidding me?
It does sound fake.
Scary movie, right? This.
Right, no doubt. Yeah, that's classic. This movie is one that I for sure watch every Halloween, but I watch it, at least a couple times a year. You know what I mean? It's one of the ones every once in a while you'll pick up and go, yeah, I got to watch this right now. And the cast, the story's really good. I think. Do you guys enjoy the story, or do you feel it's yeah?
Oh yeah, for me it's like a detective mystery story.
Yeah, absolutely.
And it's so intriguing it's a mystery with a supernatural twist on it.
Absolutely.
And that I'm so hooked into the mystery of like what the fuck's going on.
Right. Yeah. So and obviously Tom Atkins is really really good in it, but you're only as good as the script, and I really felt like Tommy Lee Wallace. John, you talked about that in the Lost episode. Tommy Lee Wallace did a really good job, and you were talking about how it would have been cool to see some other up and comers maybe go with John Carpenter's idea of having a seasonal anthology type movie where every year it'd be a different person and a different topic. So I thought Tommy Lee Wallace did a really good job.
That's true. I mean, how cool would that have been to see Cronenberg make a Halloween-like movie, or Craven, or anybody around that time that was making movies like this?
Sure.
Would have been really cool to see their kind of 2 cents in the barrel, because we got to see that with Friday the 13th. We got to see all these kind of, these Joe Zitos, these Danny Steinmans,
Tom McLaughlin, absolutely,
McLaughlins and John Carl Beeklers of the world. Yeah. We got to see them make their movies, so absolutely. It would have been cool because these movies would have had more meat and bone, meat on them. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like these movies would have been more meat and potatoes as opposed to what Friday the 13th is. It's kind of the same formula. Yeah. But
and also, John, I know you have appreciation for Part 6, but after the 4th Halloween, is there really a good one that came out of it? For me, I would say no.
I mean, it's funny. I think we talked about this last year. I reviewed Halloween 5 on my YouTube channel, and while I bashed the movie, I think I said at the end of it, and I remember you called me to tell me, or you texted me. You were like, I 100% agree. I said that even though this movie is bad, I always go back and watch it for some reason. And you were like, yes. You were like, I agree with you. It's terrible. It's dog shit. But I rewatch it a lot. There's something about it. I do think it maybe has a good atmosphere, Halloween 5. Maybe that's why. Because it feels like a lot like Halloween 4 because they were made so close together. But I would probably agree. I mean, the first 4 Halloween movies are all great in their own way. I think the first 3 are classics, right? And then Part 4 is just a really solid return to form to what Michael Myers stuff. In a lot of ways, Halloween 4 is Halloween 3. You know what I mean? Sure. Like it really is the perfect conclusion to that story. Halloween 5 is convoluted and shit, but yet I do watch it a lot, and I for some reason always like Halloween. Like I was originally not for it, now I am. I don't know. It depends on how I sleep, I guess. But after Halloween 6, no, there's not. I don't ever watch H2O. Of the last 4, I've probably seen Resurrection the most, which is scary.
Wow. I'd be honest with you. I like H2O. I don't have a problem with H2O at all. I mean,
H2O is terrible, to be honest.
You don't like it?
Ooh.
No, I'm not an H2O guy at all.
Oh man,
I think it's one of those movies that I was just like,
we're gonna fight.
Yeah, that's why I blame that movie that I'm not really excited for this new movie.
Really? Damn.
Yeah.
I'm so sorry to hear that.
The shit
I think
with Josh Hartnett was dumb to me. I don't know. I just that LL Cool J is a fucking. I don't know. That movie was.
Come on, who doesn't like LL? Get out of here. Ladies love Cool J.
I think H2O would have been good if it wasn't made in the 90s.
Yeah, well,
I don't know. It just
it
has
was-
like the 90s slasher feel.
I
to me.
totally agree with you.
Which-
It is an 8 or 90s
Like-
movie for sure.
Like, I know Nickelodeon says that the 90s are all that, but the 90s fucking suck.
Yeah,
And
for horror.
anything with the 90s feel, I can't really get into.
Field that wasn't on Nickelodeon sucked.
Right. I got a little story to kind of put in here. I know we kind of got off topic talking about the Halloween movies, but I actually had some interaction with Tamara Glenn. You guys know who? I don't know if it's Tamara or Tamara Glenn. I don't know how to say it.
I don't know. I don't even know who that is.
Well, she played. What's the character's name? Give me just a second here. Samantha in Halloween 5. You know, cute girl. You know, the hot.
Oh, the blonde.
The hot chick in part 5.
Oh, cool.
Anyways, she I became friends with her on Facebook, and she, you know, and I don't want to bash her. Don't you know? Please, anybody, you know, I'm sure she's a fine woman, but she said something on her Facebook page about a director being a rapist, and I thought that was very, very odd. So I got into it with her one night. Man, I was up till like 3 o'clock in the morning arguing with this woman about, you know, the fact that, you know, you shouldn't make those kind of accusations if you don't know if they're true, and blah, 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 so on and so forth. Anyways, so, you know, over the next couple of weeks, she literally sent me like 3 pictures over the next month of her, you know, of her in the movie signed. Isn't it? It's just the oddest fucking thing, because I think because she realized she was in the wrong, you know what I mean? So she asked for my address because she wanted to send me something nice, you know. She's like, I'm going to be nice, but, you know, and she sent me.
Weird.
Isn't that the weirdest fucking story? And
That's
you know,
a weird fucking story.
she was out. She was out of the business for a long time. She was trying to get back in, and I think that's what it boiled down to. She was afraid that, you know, our conversation might get out there, and it, you know, it might be a black mark. It was just the most weird thing. Now, she was super hot in the movie. I mean, she was cute, you know, high school girl, you know, super cute, and you know, so you know, I was like, oh, cool, I'm friends with this person, and then it turned out they weren't the best person on the planet. I don't know. I just thought that was a crazy story.
That's an insane story.
The reason I brought it up is I have the picture right here in front of me that she signed and sent to me. So,
that is bizarre,
isn't it though?
Wow.
It's funny to find out that people in movies are the same as you. You know what I mean? They're just regular people too. You know what I mean? So, anyways, I guess we should probably probably move on.
So that was well, those are 800th tangent.
Right, no doubt.
So that season of The Witch for you.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, that season. Of
Oh, is that what we were talking about?
Yeah, that was. All right, so let's get into Don. This is, I guess, your last pick.
Yes, and this is another movie very, very much like The Gate. I think I mentioned that already. I really love this movie because it you know, it's just a fun movie. You know, it makes you smile, gives you, you know, great memories, so on and so forth. And I do believe that this movie is on par with movies like The Goonies. This movie could be a Spielberg Donner film, I feel. And that is Monster Squad. I'm a huge mark for Monster Squad. I woke up this morning super early. I get up about 4:30 every morning, for anybody who doesn't know. And because I have to go to work super early, but I didn't go to work today, so I said, you know what, before the podcast, I'm going to watch bits and pieces of all these movies that I want to talk about. And you know, I put in Chud, which we actually didn't talk about this episode. It's in the lost episode if anybody ever finds it. No, I'm just kidding. So I was watching a little bit of Chud, and I watched a little bit of Night of the Demons, and then I put in Monster Squad, and I watched the whole damn thing. It's just one of those, you know, it's just one of those kind of movies where it was, you know, it just went by, you know, and then a movie is only about an hour and 24 minutes or something like that. So it's a short movie, which is definitely the opposite of a Spielberg movie. But I love the companionship in this movie. I love, you know, the characters are really great. The monsters are great. You know, Tom Noonan, who was in Manhunter, he played Francis Dollarhide in Manhunter, plays Frankenstein, and yeah, I can't remember everybody's name. I'm terrible. Andre Gower's in this. He plays Sean, and Patrick is Robbie Kiger. They're like the best friends. Ryan Lambert's in this, and he's kind of the tough guy. And anybody who is my age would remember Kids Incorporated. He was on that with Martika and Fergie. Stacey Ferguson was in that. Anyways, but the character that I love in this movie is, throughout the movie, he's known as the Fat Kid. Okay, and you know, I grew up the fat, chubby kid, so I always gravitate to those guys. But he had some really, really cool lines in this movie, and I'm going to play one of them real quick. I'll play the short version, but here we go.
Take him in the north! Take him in the north! He doesn't have north! Do it! Do it! Wolfman's got nards! Come on! Come on!
So anybody who knows the 80s movies knows that line, Wolfman's got nards. But I love this character. You know, one of the reasons is because he reminded me of myself, but he's got the cool lines in the movie. You know, usually it's the good-looking guy or the cool guy who has all the cool lines. Well, this one's kind of the fat kid. So, at the very end of the movie, he gets to kill. I think he's called Gill Man, if I remember correctly. And he's kind of nervous about it, and people were giving him a hard time. But they say, something about cool, good job, fat kid, or something like that, because that's what they called him throughout the whole movie. And he says this:
My name is Horace.
So, I just love, these are the kind of movies that remind you of your childhood and remind you of good times. You know what I mean? And I think that's why I'm such a movie lover. Movies have such a visceral effect for me in my childhood. It kind of combines the things, the good things at least. There's a lot of shitty things that happen in my childhood too, but it reminds me of all the good things. So what do you guys think about this movie? I know you got to be fans.
That's an amazing what you just said about the whole childhood thing. The movie I'm going to talk about next, I 100% agree. It has the same effect on me. This is one of those movies that came along in a time, and I'm actually almost nervous to start talking about this because this is, I believe, where we were when the last episode fucking crapped out. So cross everything you got, guys, so it doesn't happen. Basically, this is really like the monster movie version of the Goonies. Yes. You got a bunch of kids. You've got these classic horror movie villains, Dracula, Frankenstein, etc. And they basically are all these kids, and they always have all these like witty lines and stuff. I saw this movie only a year ago. I watched this last year around Halloween time, wow. And I remember how excited I was. Because I know the Dead Pit guys really put this movie over. And normally what they put over, I go watch and I like immediately. Like I usually agree with them. And while I think this is a very good movie and a very, I think it's perfect nostalgic for somebody who would see it as a kid. I didn't see it as a kid. So You have to see it on my kind of 2 cents of, I didn't see this as a kid. I didn't grow up in the 80s and stuff. But even with that said, even though there's no nostalgic feel for me here, I think it's an awesome movie. It's a lot of fun. Yeah. It's the Goonies if it was more horror-like.
Sure. And
I love it. I love the shock until you drop. That song is awesome. The little montages. I know every person that has seen this movie when they were a kid in the 80s, cream in their jeans when you talk about it. Like it is I've never seen so many fucking unapologetic fanboys for a film more than this movie. And I love it. I think it's the most awesome thing. Like if you grew up in the 80s, you love Monster Squad. It's like a rule.
Right.
Which is another thing about this movie I can't believe that it was kind of a flop. It made no money.
Yep. True definition of a cult classic.
It is a definition of a cult classic because I can't believe a movie like this came out at that time period and did not make financial success. Like that's amazing to me to believe. But yeah, I mean, it's a fun movie. You got all these good kid actors. Robbie Krieger or Krieger, I guess.
One of those.
I think actually, sadly enough, the fat kid passed away.
He did at 22.
He died really young. Yeah, they said. I remember watching the Monster Squad documentary. They were all saying that he was like the nicest kid in the world, and I think the girl that played the little girl in it was saying that he was always like really nice to her, while the other boys were always kind of screwing around. There's actually a lot of good backstory to the making of this movie that's really good too. I actually found the documentary just as good as the movie.
Yeah.
But this is a great cult movie for people that grew up in the 80s, which is probably the primary, the majority of our listeners. So I'm sure they've all seen this, and I'm sure they're all cream in their jeans when they see this. This is the number one movie I think of that people mark out for is this movie.
Cool.
And I love it. It's awesome because I do the same thing with pretty much the next movie. But Will, I don't know if Will's ever seen Monster. I've only seen it a year ago, so I doubt Will's seen it.
Well, thanks for your vote of confidence. And I'm even angrier because you are correct.
Yes.
I haven't seen it, although I have heard nothing but good things. Like, I remember when I watched Sean C. Phillips on YouTube a lot, all he would do was rave about it. And I'm currently just looking at images of it, and the monster effects look really good.
Yeah.
Could you two talk about that, just like the monster designs and how they look in film and in motion?
Yeah, I mean, I guess with the Wolfman a little bit, and with Gillman, it's not, it looks fake, but I mean, this isn't, American Werewolf in London or anything like that. But, other than that, though, Frankenstein looks great. Obviously, the Mummy, you really can't go wrong with the Mummy. I mean, but the dude they had to play it, man, he was a scrawny thing. Holy moly. But it was, not to take away from it, it didn't really take away from the movie for me at all. But you could tell, that they were in some serious prosthetics. And I was trying to think who actually did the effects for this movie. John, do you have any idea? I mean, I'm looking it up right now, but do you have any idea who that was?
I have. I don't know. That's a damn good question. I really don't know.
Yeah.
This is around 87. This came out.
Yeah.
It would probably be the same person that did the effects for Night of the Creeps, I would think.
It says Matt Rose and John Rosengrant, which I don't know if I've ever heard of them. So
I've never heard of them either, but they did a good job. I
Yeah.
think this movie has pretty decent effects. It's really not an effects kind of movie, though. It's really more about the characters, and it's another one of those movies that has kids as the main characters, and I think that movies in the 80s really mastered movies like this.
Yes.
Movies like, talking about Stand By Me, movies like The Goonies, obviously.
Absolutely.
All these movies are really big cult movies. All three movies that I just mentioned are huge with people that grew up around this time. And Stand By Me I saw as a kid, so that one's a huge cult movie with me too.
Sure.
So it's really it's a really fun watch. It's really, I think, like Don said, it gets you in that mood.
Yeah.
It gets you in that atmospheric mood that is around this time. It's not considered. I don't even know if I'd consider it straight up horror, but it's straight up awesome to get you into the spirit of things, and that's what I think really resonates. It's that perfect happy medium of frightening, but at the same time fun.
Yeah.
And that really hits home with me around the Halloween time of the season. I think Monster Squad's a prime pick, and I'm sure all the listeners are going to go, yes.
Yeah, I did want to talk a little bit about Fred Decker, the director. He's the one who actually directed Night of the Creeps, which is a fantastic movie. And this movie was written by Shane Black, who did Lethal Weapon and The Last Boy Scout, Last Action Hero, Long Kiss Goodnight. And he's the guy who sold the first $1 million script ever, which was Lethal Weapon. So, the pedigree's pretty good. You know what I'm saying? Shane Black didn't go on to do a ton of other things. But, it's, so the story's pretty good. The direction's pretty good. For instance, simple things like, Wolfman's got nards and when the mummy's hanging onto the back of the Jeep and, he's unraveling and the kids and Ryan Lambert says, see you later, Band-Aid breath. Those kind of things, man, as a kid.
Yeah, the Stephen King rules.
Yes,
shirt.
Absolutely. Stephen King, and this was Stephen King's heyday. You know what I mean? Even I know he does well for himself now, but this is really his heyday,
Yeah, and it's not even, he has no involvement other than
other than the t-shirt.
Roles,
Right.
I always thought that was pretty awesome.
Absolutely.
But this is definitely one that I watched last year, and I may revisit it this year. I'm definitely looking forward more to watching The Gate, because that's one I grew up with, obviously. But
awesome.
This is a prime choice for anybody that grew up around this time. Monster Squad is an excellent choice.
All right, so I guess you're up. You're up, John. Or do we want to throw another Will in there?
Yeah, do you want to go one more, Will, and then I'll wrap this up, or do you want me to just wrap it up?
Yeah, sure. I'll throw in another one that I think we had a good discussion on, but it got cut out because we lost the last episode. But I think Creepshow is an amazing movie for this time period. It kind of goes back to the idea of it's just being a fun atmosphere while still having horror elements to it. Because for me, there are like 5 different segments in Creepshow, and each one I think has a completely different tone. where the first one of Happy Father's Day is like a zombie story, but very much of like the 50s EC horror comic feel.
Yes.
You got the Stephen King one where he's just being a goof, but in a way that you're on board and you know that everything that's happening is ridiculous, and he's like and he's even having like these fantasies of like him turning into meteor and the guy being like, "I'll give you $10,000.
I wouldn't give you 2 cents
for a broken meteor." It's like so over the top, but you buy into it so much. The third story where it's Leslie Nielsen is like this villain and he buries these 2 people up to their head while the tides come in and makes them watch each other on a screen, and then they come back as these really cool zombies. That's amazing.
Yes. Yeah.
You got The Crate, which actually is, from what I hear, is most people's favorite, but it's actually my least favorite story of the 5. So I don't have much to say on that one. But then the last one, they'll creep up on you, or they'll sneak up on you, which is just about this guy in this sterile white room, and cockroaches, like thousands of cockroaches, end up getting on him. That one terrifies the fuck out of me, because I'm just not a bug person at all.
Me neither. That's a scary one, man. And I love this whole movie because it's really Romero and Stephen King getting us in the mood for this season. I think it's a perfect movie to watch with friends around this time of the season. And it's one of those movies too that it has everything. It's so grand. If you're afraid of bugs, it has that. If you like over the top weird stories about crazy Stephen King running around saying meteor shit and turning this green thing, I love that too. It has Ed Harris dancing like a madman. It has Leslie Nielsen playing one of the best roles of his career as this kind of funny villain. I just love everything about this movie. It's really, really one of the perfect movies to watch around this time of the year. And I love that opening when it transitions from live action to cartoon, and it's that shot of the pumpkin, and you kind of hear that laugh track. It's like hee, that kind of laugh, that kind of like maniacal laugh, and then they turn it into this cartoon to transition from each story to story. And like, I just love everything about Creepshow, man. My favorite has always been Lonesome Death of Jordy Verrill, because it's just so over the top, and like Stephen King's just sitting there like turning into this thing while watching the classic WWF like 1980s tag team wrestling, and like just all these funny lines. I love Creepshow, man. Perfect movie to watch around this time. Yeah,
I agree. Again, it's another one that you could sit down with your friends and, like I said, maybe play a drinking game with or something. I don't know, but if you're a total casting whore, if you're big into actors, this is a really incredible movie. Hal Holbrook, Adrienne Barbeau, like you said, Ed Harris, Stephen King, Ted Danson, and one of my least favorite actresses, and that's Galen Ross.
You mean Alexis Dubin?
Yeah, Alexis Dubin from Mad Men.
She actually wanted people to see this, though.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, she'll talk about this one. But so you can't go wrong with the acting in this movie for sure. And I agree. And I think I mentioned this before. I actually prefer to, but it's for very specific reasons. What's it called? Is it called The Raft? I can't remember what it's called.
Raft. Yeah, that's the best segment of the series.
Yeah, I love that, and that's the movie. That's the segment that sticks with me out of all these, and I love that one. That's probably my favorite. But these, not to say that this is bad, of course, because this is it's 1A and 1B for sure. But like I said, Leslie Nielsen. I love Leslie Nielsen. I mean, I consider Leslie Nielsen did some really, really good stuff. I mean, he was in Prom Night, but then he did the goofiest stuff, with the police story and all that kind of stuff. You know what I mean? So
I think Will likes those movies.
I have the entire 6-episode series of Police Squad and the Naked Gun trilogy.
Yeah,
is
Naked
phenomenal.
Gun. Yeah,
I think that's just so my humor.
Yeah.
Which is the
That's
most
cool.
dumb like.
I know you're big.
Oh
You're just a big OJ fan. I know. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah, orange juice is my favorite.
It is.
Breakfast beverage.
But this movie is really, really good. And I, guys, I think at some point we all three need to sit down and Skype and watch a movie. And like you said, do a commentary, because I think we'd have a good time with something like this for sure.
Oh yeah, or more roundtables. I love roundtables.
Oh yeah, I love them too.
I love just spilling my fucking guts on fucking horror. It's just the best feeling.
Yep. Yeah, we need to pick something all of us hate though. I don't think we've done that yet.
Oh, do like a roundtable on movies we hate.
Yeah, and why? You know what I mean?
Oh shit.
You know what I mean? Because we,
that
you know,
would not be a positive episode.
right? Well, I mean, you know, we've all done, you know, where one of us didn't like something and the other two did, or you know, you liked it and I didn't, or whatever. So we should pick a bunch of shit and just fucking rail on it. That'd be amazing.
Oh, that would be easy. I think we could easily come up with that.
We could fill up a couple hours with that for sure.
Oh, for sure, man.
All right, John, man, let's talk about number one. I think.
Oh, we're gonna land the plane here. This is
absolutely
the final pick. This is a movie. Yeah, drum roll. This is a movie that, like Monster Squad with Don, I saw as a kid. I saw this maybe 5 or 6 years old, and I remember watching it on the Disney Channel. And they would always show really cool. Before I get into this, I'm so glad now that that other episode got lost because I wouldn't have asked Will this, and I have to ask Will this. Will, do you remember a movie called Don't Look Under the Bed?
Was it a DCOM?
Yes, it was Disney Channel original movie.
Yes.
You saw it, right?
Yes. Which one is this?
This is the one where the girl, it goes to middle school, and like this is really funny. I have the. She goes to school one day, and there's like this black guy, and he's like dancing on this boulder in front of her.
Oh my gosh.
And he's like, he eventually begins to tell her that he's her imaginary friend, and that he knows that the boogeyman is living under her brother's bed. And like he begins to start to change, and dude, it is a scary movie. Like the effects in it were really well done. It's one of those movies that really has that gritty late 90s feel, like that grungy, like the end of the grunge era. And it's a creepy ass movie. Do you remember it at all or no? Vaguely?
I have vague memories of this. I was always more of into the Halloween Town series for the DCOMs.
I love Halloween Town too a lot.
This one I'm trying. Wasn't it weird? And it was like there was like some Victorian atmosphere to it.
No, it was like they end up going under the bed to fight the boogeyman. Like it was a fucking, whoever made it was on acid. Like you can't tell me that the person was like perfectly sane that made that movie. But all right, I'm sorry.
That's okay.
I didn't mean to get off on a tangent.
You guys were speaking a different language.
I have the greatest memories of that movie, man, and I would just love to talk about it with somebody. But the movie I really wanted to discuss is called Hocus Pocus, and it's from the early 90s. This movie came out, and I remember watching this on the Disney Channel as a little kid, and it's just this awesome nostalgic movie for me because it basically tells the story of these three witches played by Bette Midler, Kathy Najimy, and Sarah Jessica Parker, and they're basically they live in Salem, and the movie opens it's in the 1600s, and they pretty much lure this young girl to their house, and they basically make her drink this magical potion, and they suck her soul out. Now this happens in the first 5 minutes of a Disney film, so you're like, holy shit, right away. And then basically her older brother tries to save her, and he's a little bit too late in his attempt, and they turn him into a black cat permanently. And then it cuts to them all being hung by the town villagers who are like, where's my son? Where's my daughter? Did you kill them? And she's like, yeah. So she basically says, if a virgin lights the black flame candle, we will all return on Halloween night. And basically they get hung, and then it fast forwards to 300 years later, where we follow this character by the name of Max and his little sister played by Dora Birch, and his lady friend interest, Vanessa Shaw, in the movie. And he basically lights the black flame candle, and the witches come back, and what they want to do is make the potion and suck the lives out of all the children in Salem before sunrise. And it's just such a great little movie, man. I just love everything about it. There's this great Halloween dance in it. There's this great, really funny one-liners between Bette Midler and Kathy Najimy. And I always thought it was funny, Kathy Najimy's character couldn't afford a broom, so she's always riding around on like a vacuum. I just like shit like that. Like that's so my humor. Like we'll have this bitch ride a vacuum and like someone will grab her extension cord so she can't fly away. Like I love stuff like that. And this movie has a lot of rules in it too, like witches can't step foot on hallowed ground. It was really a Disney movie attempt to make a classic Universal monster movie. And I think it really, really hits home with me. It's I think the perfect movie to watch around this time. But then again, it is very nostalgic for me too. I grew up with this one. Will, I'm pretty sure you've seen this movie and love it just as much as me. But what is your what's your 2 cents on this one?
Yeah, this is one that like I saw in elementary school growing up. It just never really resonated with me.
Ooh.
as much as Halloween Town did.
Okay.
And so here I am, like 5 years, going from ages 5 to 10, watching these every year, and like there's Hocus Pocus that, like I get it, you know, because like there's a beyond huge cult following behind it.
Yeah, it's insane the cult following behind that movie. Holy shit!
So many people like masturbate to this movie. They love it.
It's true. It's actually bigger than the Monster Squad fan, which I didn't think was possible.
Yeah, so like I had that, but then I was like, okay, there are 4 Halloween Towns that I love. So like I always went to that, and I even like now when I was rewatching stuff for Halloween, put in part 2, Calabar's Revenge.
I love that one.
I think I watched that like 3 times this month because I just love it so much.
Halloween Town 2. I actually only really liked the first 2. I think the third one was like a mess, but it was watchable. And then the last one's like really bad. It's the girl from The Last House on the Left remake playing Marnie.
Okay. Yeah, the 4th one just did not care about its predecessors at all.
Bad.
It did whatever. But you know what? As a kid, you're in. And like fucking Lucas Gabriel from High School Musical was in it, so I was like, yes, crossover.
Who actually, speaking of High School Musical, this was the director of High School Musical, made Hocus Pocus.
Kenny Ortega.
Yeah, he made 2 kind of cult classics.
Don, I'm sure you know all about this stuff, right?
I'm sorry. Were you guys talking? I didn't know. Yeah. No. I don't know anything about any of that other stuff you're talking about, and I've never seen Hocus Pocus. But I did find it at a Goodwill. I sent a picture to John. John and I were talking about it, and I'm like, dude, I have no desire to see that movie. I don't like any of the actresses in it. Not a fan of any of them. As a matter of fact, really don't like any of them. I mean, Sarah Jessica Parker's all right. And I actually find her attractive, so sue me. But I do have it, and I'm going to watch it. As a matter of fact, like I said, I'm off work today, so I think I'm going to watch it this afternoon because it does sound very similar to the same feelings that I have about Monster Squad and The Gate and things like that. So I think I'm going to go check it out. And it's not that I didn't like any of the Disney stuff. I was just I was probably in my early 30s when you're talking that stuff. So
yeah, exactly.
You know what I mean?
That's what I think is so great about this show because like the age difference, while it's like it's not the usual, it's great because it's like me and you grew up with a lot of the same movies,
right? That's
and so did Will and I. But at the same time, like I didn't see Monster Squad until last year.
Right.
You grew up with Monster Squad,
right.
So it's going to be interesting to see. You haven't seen Hocus Pocus until later this afternoon.
Right.
I grew up with Hocus Pocus, so it's like one of those things. I feel like it'll be a similar thing how I feel with Monster Squad, where it's like I really liked and respected the movie, but like there's no nostalgia there because I saw it when I was 20.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yep.
Like
sure.
It's like one of those things which I wish I had seen it as a kid because you know how much I love The Gate.
Right.
So. It is what it is, but I love stuff like that. It's cool to kind of introduce movies like this to people.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and I'm looking forward to it. I really am. Since our first conversation about it, I kind of changed my tune about watching it a little bit. So, yeah, I'm looking forward to checking it out. Hopefully maybe my kids will watch it with me or whatever. Actually, there's only one here, but maybe I'll sit down and watch it with me.
That's a perfect movie to watch with kids, man. Totally watch it with your kids.
Yeah. So, but yeah, I'm looking forward to it.
Great. I really can't wait to hear what you think.
Cool.
But all right, fellas. I guess that's it. I guess that's our take 2 of the Halloween horror picks for 2017.
3.5 hours later.
Yeah, I'm glad we did re-record this. Yeah. I originally was like not for it. I was like,
Oh man,
but no, I'm glad we did because it still turned out pretty damn well. if I should say so myself. And it's nice that we got to end with Will on the program.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I was in class. It was funny. For the first episode, I had to leave early because I had class, and then for this one, I came in late because of that same class.
Right, nice.
So the moral, kids, is to not go to class because you'll miss out on all the fun.
That's right.
Exactly. You'll miss out on all the goblins, ghosts, witches, and bitches that there are. But to end this, I figure we'll do one more little Halloween-related topic.
Sure.
Let's say, what is your favorite candy, and what is do you have any traditions on Halloween?
Ooh,
Go
okay.
ahead,
Should
Will.
I go first?
Yeah, go for it, Will.
Okay, my favorite candy is Sour Patch Watermelon because they are delicious, soury candies that have. It's just so fruity, and it's literally sour, sweet, gone, in all the best ways.
Oh my god, that was too fucking I feel like you planned that.
Right, he knew you were going to ask that question.
Sour, sweet. No, he used the fucking thing they say on the commercial.
Right.
That was perfect. That's still my humor. I'm sorry. Go ahead. What's your tradition?
I need to calm down because I do this thing where I laugh at my own jokes more than other people do.
Oh man.
Yeah.
Thanks.
True.
Yeah, but a Halloween tradition that I've always, even through high school, I've done, and the only reason I can't do it now is because I'm at college and away from everything. But do either of you remember ghosting?
Oh yeah!
Where,
Oh my god!
Where someone would come to your house at night, ring the doorbell, and run away, and you answer the door, and there's some candy and a ghost, and it's oh, you've been ghosted. So then you have to. There are 2 copies of the ghost, one for you to keep and then one for you to give out to someone.
Yes.
And so you then have to make a photocopy of it, staple it all together, get the candy, and go to your neighbor and run away.
Oh my gosh, dude.
And that was my favorite thing to do as a kid. And I did it through high school because there were young kids on my block, and I was like, you know what, it's fun, I want to do it.
Dude, I love you. You have to come back home soon, man. We gotta get together and watch some movies.
Yes, please. In about a month.
Yeah,
Thanksgiving.
I'm looking forward to it, man. That dude, ghosting was so much fun, man. I will never forget that. That was great.
All right.
So Don, how about you, man? Any what is your favorite candy? I know we talked a little bit about candy, but give me that one, number one or something.
My favorite candy.
Any traditions if you have?
My favorite candy as an old man is no, I'm just kidding. I really like Smarties and gummy
Classic.
bears, but Smarties probably number 1 on the list for sure. And we never smoked them like kids did a couple years ago.
Really?
You never heard of that?
Kids smoked Smarties?
Yeah, well, they would crush them up, and remember when you crushed them up, it was like smoke, and they would inhale them, and then they would blow out the smoke. You've never heard of this?
Yo, Don, I love your weird stories. I don't even remember that.
Yeah.
That's fucking awesome.
Isn't that crazy? So yeah, we didn't do that. We just ate them and ruined our teeth. But
there you go.
Yes,
well, that's what you were supposed to do.
Exactly. So a tradition for me, one thing people don't know about me, I don't even know if you know this, John, is I actually went to college to be a minister.
Oh yeah, I know that.
Okay, all right. So I grew up in a very religious home. So for a lot of my life, I wasn't supposed to trick or treat, dress up, and all that kind of stuff. We weren't allowed to do that. So my favorite tradition for Halloween is when I used to sneak down to my friend's house and find some stupid shit in the garage and go trick or treat. It could be like a cowboy belt with 2 guns, and that was it. That's all I had, and then a pair of jeans and a T-shirt, So yeah. So we weren't allowed to do it very often, but I always found a way, even if it was for, 10 minutes or 15 minutes, I would hit, 5 or 6 different houses and things like that. So for me, I'm so not that anymore. I'm like not religious at all. But so for me, that's kind of the extent of it, or, I would go and hang out with my friends and we'd watch a movie or something like that, something real benign. But that's what I remember. I remember, trying to sneak out and get a couple houses in before my mom found out. And she would beat me with a crucifix. No, that never happened. Don't even try it. But no, that's kind of it. That's it for me.
Lock you in a closet like Carrie White's mom.
They're all going to laugh at you.
Say it.
They're all going to laugh at you. Yeah. So no, it wasn't that bad. But I definitely would have gotten in trouble, but my mom only beat me on Saturdays. So.
Yeah. All right. So my favorite candy, I was talking about chocolate. I go Twix. I really like Twix bars.
Nice. Can't go wrong with the Twix.
But thinking about it, about fruity, and I have to factor everything in here.
There's a formula?
I didn't know. This is a very difficult choice.
Hey, this is your question.
I pulled this up on the fly, brother. What do you think? I prepared this?
John, I know you. You prepared the candy question.
See.
You actually incorrect. I didn't. I just felt like we should talk maybe a little bit other than the movies, maybe a little bit of tradition. But this is going so well. Like, I can't believe this. Like, I almost don't want to even say anything. Jesus. Freaking. I don't know.
Candy corn. You like candy corn? Or
no,
like
I don't like
we talked about what popcorn balls.
Actually, I really like Nestle's Crunch.
Oh, there you go.
I really like that. That would be another one. But if I was going fruit, I'd probably say Skittles, or I really do like Sour Patch Kids as well, or Swedish Fish.
Oh, dude, Swedish Fish. You're absolutely right. That's got to be number 2 on my list for sure. Swedish Fish.
I'll eat them like I could eat like a whole bin of those.
But the real question is the Sour Patch Kids? Is it the watermelon ones?
Oh, I love watermelon
okay.
Sour Patch Kids. Yeah, I don't. I mean, if they don't specifically give me that, if they give me the regular, I'll eat the regular too.
What about Jolly Ranchers? I love Jolly Ranchers, dude.
Oh,
jeez.
Love Jolly Ranchers.
Yeah, Will loves Jolly Ranchers. I remember Will always had Jolly Ranchers.
Yeah.
But and then traditions, I'll never forget going to school, and they would usually play these little audio books of a book by the name of Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark. And it was super fun for us kids to kind of they would always lay out a party. We'd have all these chips and sandwiches and stuff, and then they'd play the Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark as we were all dressed up in the classroom. And I remember them playing these kind of these creepy scary stories. I actually have the book right here. If you guys are so bold, would you want me to read one? They're really short. They're only like a page long.
Sure.
Okay, cool. Here.
You have to do voices, though.
Yeah. We don't want no generic stuff. Don't you guys think it's sad? I mean, I don't know what it's like where you guys are, but where I'm from now, they don't call it a Halloween party at school.
What?
Yeah, they call it a harvest party or something stupid like that.
Get your Puritan shit out of here. It's
dead,
Halloween.
I'm dead serious.
Harvest.
Isn't that crazy?
That makes me sound. It makes it sound like you're going to like a farm to like look at hay or something.
That's what a Thanksgiving party is. The harvest
I know.
party.
Isn't that crazy? It's so ridiculous.
Man, I feel like this world is really fucking crumbling around us. Like, we're the last hopes.
Yep.
But all right, I'll read this one. This is only a page and a half long. No, this is just a page long. This is my favorite story in the whole book, and I'll try to do voices, but I don't. The audiobook is far superior than me.
Hold on a second. Everyone, lower the lights.
Yes.
Everyone lower the lights.
When I read.
If you have a flashlight and a blanket, throw that blanket over your head and turn on the flashlight.
Yes.
Go ahead.
This one is called Wait Till Martin Comes. An old man was out for a walk. When a storm came up, he looked for a place to take shelter. Soon he came to an old house. He ran up on the porch and knocked on the door, but no one answered. By now, rain was pouring down, thunder was booming, and lightning was flashing. So he tried the door. When he found it was unlocked, he went inside. Except for a pile of wooden boxes, the house was empty. He broke up some of the boxes and made a fire with them. Then he sat down in front of the fire and dried himself off. It was so warm and cozy that he just fell asleep. When he woke up, a black cat was sitting near the fire. It stared at him for a while. Then it purred. That's a nice cat, he thought, as he dozed off again. When he opened his eyes, there was a second cat in the room now. But this one was as big as a wolf. It looked at him very closely and asked, "Shall we do it now?" "No," said the other cat. "Let's wait till Martin comes." I must be dreaming, the old man thought. He closed his eyes again. Then he took another look. But now there was 3 cats in the room, and this one was as big as a tiger. It looked the old man over and asked, "Shall we do it now, or shall we wait till Martin comes?" The old man jumped out of his skin, jumped out of the chair, and jumped out of the window, started running down the street, and called, "When Martin comes, you tell him I couldn't wait." That's it. That is the story.
What?
I don't know what it was. When I listened to the audiobook of that story, the guy doing the voice scared the piss out of me. He absolutely scared the piss out of me. Like, it is so creepy. I remember having nightmares of, like, waking up and seeing, like, ginormous cats in my room. And, like, I was deathly afraid of cats for a while. Like, I didn't tell anybody.
Oh, my God.
Except my mother. Like, I told my mom, I was like, never, ever, like, let me get near a cat. Like, if someone has a cat, I don't want to go. You know?
Because
Oh my
Martin
gosh.
might come.
That's classic.
Yes.
Who's Martin?
I just
Oh
always-
my gosh.
Little did he know Martin was the pizza guy.
I thought Martin was the guy. I thought he was a vampire.
Yeah, right. From
I thought
Romero.
Martin was Martin Lawrence.
You thought it was, what was it? What did he do? Wanda? No, I don't know who that was. Anyways, Jamie Foxx. Anyways, that's classic,
So
dude.
yeah. Anyway, that is it for now. I really appreciate you guys coming up with the traditions and candy on the spot like
Absolutely.
I did. And I liked reading the scary story to tell in the dark. That was always fun.
I'm glad you enjoyed it.
Yes.
I'm glad I enjoyed it because I can tell Will didn't. But really, if you guys, the audiobook is awesome. But thank you all for joining. Thank you all for listening. Thank you all for hanging in there. This has been the second recording of this. When are you gonna have this up, Don?
It'll probably be up later tonight.
Oh, beautiful.
Yeah,
Okay, so looking forward to hear some feedback. And looking forward to hear if you guys have any of your picks. Send them in. We'll read them on the next episode or something.
Yeah, maybe we'll be able to hook up with Ryan.
Yeah, I tried, but he just said he had a lot of work and
Yep.
stuff. So
Gotcha.
hopefully we'll be able to make something work and whatnot. But Will, I want to thank you for coming on.
Absolutely.
As always. You were
Thanks,
awesome.
Of course, I love being here, man.
Cool.
No problem. And Don, thanks as always.
Absolutely.
Awesome.
Yep.
You did an awesome job. And that is it for now. So I am the Pajama Pants Player signing off for the Flashback Horror Movie Podcast. Peace out, guys. Have a nice day.
Peace.
See ya.